All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 lessons that took me the last 17 years to learn while working inside the service industry. They're decisions that change how I pay people, how I scaled, and how I stopped capping our growth. If you're running a service industry business, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Jonas Olson, the founder of Pest Badger. I've been in the service industry for 17 years. For the past 5 years, I've grown a pest control company from 1 location to 17 locations across 5 states. I use this channel to document how I think about scaling service businesses, what's worked for us, ultimately, so it helps and hopefully it works for you. The first lesson that I want to talk about today is pay for performance. This one took me a little bit longer to understand than it probably should have. Before I was in pest control, I actually worked a union job. I worked with people who had been there for 5, 10, 15, 20, even 25 years, and they made really, really good money. And a lot of them were super skilled at what they did. But the pace was super slow. Everything moved at the same speed no matter who I was working with. There was zero urgency, not because people couldn't work harder, but because people had no incentive to work harder. Back then, there wasn't a whole lot of jobs going around at that time. I think it was like 08, it's like kind of like the downfall of the housing industry. So they would just kind of milk that job and then they hope for the next job to show up so they weren't get laid off. So they would kind of just milk that job. So there's zero urgency to go move any faster. But at the same time, I actually started my lawn care business. I was working from Monday through Thursday at noon. Get done at noon on Thursday, travel back home, and I work from Thursday to Sunday. And I did this for 2 years. But I quickly realized that the faster I did my job, the more I got paid. And if I wasted time, it cost you money. So I got super efficient at what I was doing so that I would win. In my other job, the faster that I worked, the more I would just stand around or they'd have me sweep the floors for the 15th time in the same room. So I noticed right then and there that incentives really, really shape behavior of your employees that you're working with. I remember thinking back then that if I ever had employees that I did not want to pay people for just showing up. I don't care if you've been there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. May the best man win. Again, we live in America. It's capitalism at its finest. So I don't care if you've been here for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And if you want to become, from a lead technician to a branch manager to a partner, I don't care how long it took you. I don't care if it took you 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you're hitting your KPIs and you want to go get your licenses and you want to get your license in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 2 years, 5 years, I don't care. It's up to you. You want to go get our reviews to where you need to get to. Like if you want to get 100 reviews, 200 reviews, whatever that may be in your company to go out there to be a branch manager, I don't care how long it takes you. If you want to go get your ACE certification, again, I don't care how long it takes you. The faster that you want to work, more work that you want to put in, the more you'll get paid. But I just didn't know how to do this yet. I just knew that hourly pay created bad habits that I did not want. But a few years later, like I said, I've been in it for 2 years. I finally had employees. And then I'll be honest, I started to pay them hourly because I just didn't know the model yet. But I caught the same guy standing around on his phone while on the job. I remember in the middle of this massive snowstorm, and I was pushing snow, and I was like, where in the hell is this guy at? Like, I was looking at his GPS, I think, at the time, or maybe I just drove by, and the truck hadn't moved, and I went and plowed another spot. I came back, and the truck still hadn't moved. I walk up to his door, and he was just sitting on his phone watching a YouTube video as we're in this massive storm. And it's not because he was a bad person, but the system literally allowed him to go do it. Should he have done it? Obviously not. Should he have got fired? Yes. He was my first employee. And fast forward 17 years, he's still here today. But besides the point. But there's honestly no upside to him moving any faster. And there was no downside for him moving any slower than he could have got fired. But that's seriously when it really clicked. If your pay structure rewards time, you get time-based behavior. If your structure rewards output, you'll get output-based behavior. But that's when I knew I had to figure out how to do pay for performance model, even if it wasn't perfect at first. And when I switched to pay for performance, the clarity came super fast. The people who wanted to produce, they leaned in, they produced revenue, they did a good job, and they made more money. The people who didn't, they made it super obvious too. They couldn't keep up with production. They didn't want to keep up production. They didn't want to work hard. They wanted to milk the clock. They kind of just weaned themselves up because we held them to the fire about their production. And as soon as that happened, yeah, you're probably going to lose people. Also, caveat to that, if you've been thinking about this for a while, whether you're bigger or smaller, and you say, hey, I'm going to go try pay for performance, I'll give you a couple tips. I plan on doing a whole video in the future just on pay for performance. But for now, pick a week where there's no holidays or try to. So there's no holidays and obviously no days, but you can't have control of that. Why I'm saying that is because even if you don't pay holidays, but there happens to be a paid holiday on that week where you're implementing this for the first time, if their paycheck was smaller than the week before, even though it was the day off or they wouldn't have got paid, they're not going to like it. So I would just test this for a week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months, and whichever way they get paid more, pay them that way. So you can show them side by side. Again, learn from my mistake. I did it with there's a holiday, and so I had a bunch of pushback on the week one. I'm like, whoa, you guys wouldn't have got paid anyway. At the time, we weren't paying holiday pay, but what we do now. But besides the point, just make sure that when you're testing this out, there's not a holiday. And then to the rain day, make sure to explain it very, very well before they even get their paycheck. Also, the one thing that I didn't expect was the payroll. It got way easier to manage. The pay for performance model, you're not really guessed anymore. You know what your direct labor is going to be almost all the time because it's tied to production. If the revenue goes up, the payroll moves with it. When the revenue slows down, the payroll kind of just adjusts accordingly. It makes budgeting direct payroll way cleaner, especially when you're growing. Like, some guys are just not really great at clocking in, clocking out, even though they still have to. You can kind of go back and see where their production is and see how they get paid. Makes budgeting direct pay way cleaner, especially when you're growing. And also your efficiency just goes to the roof. Let me give you a good example. I have a really good friend who runs a very large fertilization weed control company. And I've been talking to him for almost 2 years on pay for performance. And for the first year, he obviously didn't do it. In the second year, we were just looking at his routes. We were talking a lot about efficiency. And I said, hey, this is what really moved the needle for us when it came to efficiency. That year, he went out and purchased 7 new trucks because he was going to need them to grow for the next year based on the routes that he had and the work that he was getting for the following year. So he bought 7 new trucks. At that time, I think his trucks were $100,000, so that's $700,000. When he moved into pay for performance that year, even with all the new work that he had and it scheduled out and all the new work that he got, I think he only used one of those trucks because his technicians went from doing 10 to 12 jobs a day from 18 to 19, I think 20 plus jobs a day, and doubled their routes. So his efficiency, his route per technician, or revenue per technician went skyrocket. He lost some people too, but the good ones stayed and really changed his culture in his company. And it ended up saving him, didn't save him $700,000 because he ended up using one, I think. And he was obviously paying for this for the year, but that following year when he had to add trucks, he had the trucks there already. So I ended up saving him in the long run, that $700,000, if not more, because he wouldn't have known the model. So again, when you start paying for performance, the efficiency goes to the roof because you'll attract better talent. But you'll have the same market, you have the same demand, just a different incentive. You have different people with a different incentive structure. So pay for performance isn't about squeezing people, it's about aligning behavior with outcomes. Even our executive team, yes, they're on a salary, but a portion and a good portion of their salary is all performance-based. Even with myself, I'm performance-based as well. Like I said, the further that I can get away from hourly pay, the better I sleep at night, and the more it'll help drive the business forward. All right, the second lesson I want to talk to you guys about today is mentors. For a long time, I was figuring out everything on my own. I had no one to talk to. I didn't know anyone in business. I had no idea. I knew that I would work hard. I was willing to outwork anyone. I had a lot of energy. I didn't have a big ego. I just didn't know. And you just don't know what you don't know. I didn't even realize that mentors were an option. Back then, there wasn't really YouTube. Like, definitely not like there is now. That's exactly why I'm making this channel. But back then, there just wasn't YouTube. There's a few coming out, but very, very, very rare. But I didn't realize you could pay people who already had been there and help you just shortcut the process. So my first mentor, they actually owned a fertilization weed control company. And so I worked there for 2 years. I went there, said, hey, this is my plan. Can I work with you guys? I'll work here for free for 2 years. So I did that. I worked there not every day, but maybe every other day, before work and after work. After I got to mow lawns, I go pull hose, I would clean trucks, I would fill trucks. I would do whatever it took. I would literally go on the job some over the weekends, and I'd just sit there and pull hose all day long. And I got paid $0. And people are like, well, you didn't get paid? You worked for free for 2 summers long? Yeah, but the return on that time was so valuable going forward, but I just didn't know it. I just wanted to learn. And they were like the only company in town. I built a good relationship with them, and I still have a good relationship with them today. But I didn't pay them to learn, but I was there working for free, and they were mentoring me. So with that being said, if you just want to learn, go find someone that's really good at the job. Say, hey, can I just come shadow you for free? Can I come work with you for free? Like, there people will be willing to teach you because they want to find people who are willing to put in the work. And if you say, hey, I'm gonna go work for free for 2 summers long, they're like, heck yeah. But fast forward, I actually want to buy that company. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it was all approved with the bank. The bank said it's good to go. In the last 2 weeks, the deal fell through. But that next year, when I went to go apply for my own business license, you had to have 2 years of experience. Well, that company signed off that I worked them for 2 years. So I was putting in the work every single summer and in the off season, helping them even with prepays. Like I was doing whatever I could to learn. But they signed off, and that's like actually how I was able to get my own business license. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of YouTube. The videos like this, it just pretty much just felt like I was trying to do everything on my own. Like even other people just weren't really willing to help, but that person really helped me. I was still working in the business. I didn't have employees. I didn't have a CRM. I wasn't hiring or firing anyone. I was just keeping the things moving to make it work. What I didn't realize was how much time that I was burning solving problems that people had already solved for me. Again, I just didn't know. And once I started getting around people who were further ahead of me, my whole perspective changed. I got outside of this small town. I looked at the whole big world out there, and I was like, dang, like this is doable in our industry. But they just helped me understand what actually mattered next, like what to focus on, what could wait, and what just didn't need my attention yet. And everything just led to like bigger mindset shifts for myself, like just getting employees and getting out of the truck, thinking more about the working on the business instead of working in the business. Another big part of it was just being around people who dealing with the same problems. I felt like I was the only one dealing with these problems, and I couldn't talk to my family. And when I did ask them questions, they gave me this answer that made 0 sense because they had no clue what I was talking about. And then I didn't really have anyone to talk to in my local area that was running a service business that had done anything. So when I found this mentor, my mentor put me in this group or this tribe that I jumped in there, and like, everyone's dealing with the same problems, whether it's cash flow, whether it's marketing, whether it's whatever the problem was. Like, I was like, oh man, I'm not the only one dealing with these problems. Like I stopped feeling like I was so far behind. And I stopped second guessing everything. Like, okay, everyone deals with these problems. And I just didn't know that yet. And sometimes there was just like these problems that sounded so big in my head. And literally with one phone call to someone who'd already been through that same problem, they solved it in a 5-minute call for me. And it's not because I wasn't capable, but I just hadn't experienced that part of my journey yet. And with one phone call, I pick up the call, talk to my mentor or my friends, and they can solve that problem. Like I said, mentors don't replace the work. Don't take it that way. But they will definitely shorten the distance between your goals, where you want to get, in the time frame. But so they really just remove the guesswork. They've already been through a lot of these. And I've always said, like, you should have 3 mentors, in my opinion. A person that's been there and done it, successful, that like they can shorten that gap. The second mentor is roughly the same size as you are. That's going to push you every single day. And then that third one is that young kid who's like very techie, up with the times, so you keep up with the times as you move forward. Because as we get older, some tech, because in our industry, the tech gets away from us. So keeping this person around to really, really keep you in the loop of what's coming next is a good thing to have too. So again, mentors, very extremely valuable. Go find yourself a mentor, reach out to people, find groups, Facebook groups, whatever that may be, so you can be around like-minded people like yourself, people that have already been through the problems that help you solve them super fast. And that is literally paying the dumb tax. So the third lesson in our industry, the biggest factor of how big that you can build your company is obviously the area that you live. And again, I'm a young kid at this time, and this one took me a long time to understand because early on, I thought effort was the main variable. And although a lot of it is effort, most of it is the market and the market cap that you're working with. But I always thought that if I just worked harder, that I would grow faster. But what I didn't understand is the market that I was in and the service that I chose was the ceiling before I ever even showed up to work. Like I said, early on, I was doing lawn care. And in my area, you can only do lawn care for about 7 months out of the year. Then you had to switch to snow removal. And on paper, that just made sense, and that's what everyone else was doing. But in reality, it just didn't really make sense. There wasn't enough snow work to go around, and everyone already had a plow, and this price got pushed down extremely fast. People wanted to go out and plow parking lots at 3 a.m. for $35 an hour. And like, at the time, just what we did. But the same thing was happening in lawn care. Everyone else had a lawnmower. Everyone else was competing on price. And yes, you can be different. Yes, we raised prices later on. But again, when we first started out, the margins were super thin. And on top of that, you had one set of equipment for summer, and then you had a whole completely different set of equipment for winter. It's like you're running different equipment, you have different maintenance, you have different problems, like two separate businesses. And in a small town, there just wasn't enough contracts to support it all. Some years it was just hard to even break even. So like, again, small town America, where there's only 10 big parking lots to go around to all these companies, like, yeah, it makes sense. Even the same thing with lawn care. Like, in our population that we have, what percentage of them can actually afford weekly lawn maintenance? I mean, it's pretty slim. So I could only grow my business so big. And at the same time, I was in that group, and I'm watching my friends grow their service business in much larger metro areas. They weren't doing anything different. They weren't doing anything magical. They just had more people to serve, more density, and more year-round demand. And I just couldn't keep up. So instead of stepping back, I tried to make up for it by adding more services. I added landscaping. I added hydro seeding. I added Christmas lights. And the revenue did go up on paper. It looked good. But the business just got more complicated, got more equipment, more seasonality, and more things, just adding more things just to manage. And I wasn't building a one strong business. I was stacking like 3 smaller businesses on top of each other in the same small market so I could try to grow it with my friends. And not that we ran a small company, it was a decent-sized company, especially for the town that I'm in. But around that time, I told my mentor my plan. I said that I want to take over these 4 small towns all around me within like 45 minutes to an hour, and then eventually get into a bigger market in Wisconsin. And he said, well, why Wisconsin last? And I told him, well, it was the biggest market that was close enough that I could drive back and forth and not have to miss out on my kids. And he said, well, why don't you just skip all those small towns and go straight to the bigger one? And I was like, yeah, good point. But I didn't have a good answer. And then that's when COVID hit, and Michigan literally shut down. I talked about it a million times in the podcast and on my YouTube channel, and everything just stopped. It forced my hand, and I literally started just like, I had no choice. So I started going to Wisconsin. I started driving to Green Bay, and I got myself into a bigger market. And what surprised me is that my strategy didn't change. I was running the same playbook, the same marketing, the same execution. And within 2 years, that office grew double the size of my original office, and only doing 1 to 2 services total. That's when like everything clicked. I remember my mentor being up on stage, and I remember him saying specifically, I see a lot of good operators in the room who are just serving the wrong market. They blame themselves and ask, what am I doing wrong? When it's actually the market doing exactly what it's designed to do. And although he never said this directly to me, I felt like he was looking at me the entire time. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, maybe I'll never know. But I just remember thinking about that, like, oh, he's looking at me like I'm in the wrong market. Around that same time, when I was going to Wisconsin, is when I found pest control. What stood out to me immediately was that the season wasn't quite the same as lawn care. I could service pest control 12 months out of the year. And after a full year doing pest control, I knew that that was the vehicle that I needed to get me to where I needed to go. So the next year, I sold my company and went all in on pest control. Once those 3 things lined up, the business just started to make sense to me. The pay for performance gave us a way to grow without losing control of payroll and efficiency. Our efficiency went to the roof. Everyone was making more money, and the momentum just started going in our favor. The mentors helped remove a lot of like those blind spots that I couldn't see. They make decisions a lot faster and avoid learning everything the hard way and trying to figure it out on my own. Then obviously choosing the right service in the right market removed a lot of the friction that I was fighting before. And when those 3 pieces came together, girls stopped feeling so forced and like started feeling replicable. I knew how to run 2 businesses side by side in 2 different markets, and I was like, aha, I can do this. So that's what's allowed us to take what we learned and apply it to across multiple markets, and that's how we're able to add 15 more locations in the next 5 years. So I'm gonna keep documenting the decisions that I make, and I'm gonna start texting myself valuable lessons, and then at the end of a lesson, I'm gonna go back and create a video around it. But if you have any questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.